Off Limits is the money podcast that blows up stereotypes, showing you that managing money doesn't have to be hard.
We want you to thrive, not only with your money, but in every part of your life.
What you will get out of this podcast is real, relatable, and relevant tips and strategies that you can apply today. Hi, I'm Donald Raymond, and this is
Christine Spiak. We are money coaches, business owners, and colleagues who are passionate about helping you become more of who you are. So if you're ready, join us.
So here we are, Christine, for the third time now, recording this episode number 6 on Spring Has Sprung. And
yes,
you want to tell our audience what happened?
So third time is the charm. I believe it. Spring has sprung. Tips for cleaning up your finances. This is the third time we're recording it because the first time we recorded it, Donald had a power outage at his house, and our entire recording of this and the next episode was lost. And then we got together today to re-record episodes 6 and 7, and we got done with recording this episode, and he went to pull it up on his computer and did not have any audio for a technical glitch type situation. Yep. So this is a great time to share with our listeners that we have a metaphor that we can kind of relate this situation to when it comes to your finances. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, like we are living episode to episode when we record and release these episodes, then you are really not setting yourself up for success or going to be able to push your boundaries, push your limits, achieve stretch goals because you're just in it. It's paycheck to paycheck. So we have no emergency fund, right? That's the second piece of this.
We fell into our own trap.
We didn't have any episodes in the can that we could just drop on that release date of April 10th of when this episode should have come out. So here we are. We're doing exactly what we're teaching our clients not to do.
Yep. If you want to learn from us, learn from our example, and do as we say, not as we do, I guess, because here we are. So full disclosure, full transparency, that's what this is about, right? The show's called Off Limits, but basically the idea is nothing's off limits. So we're being totally transparent and vulnerable with you guys now. So be patient with us, and we'll get it figured out.
And ironically, we did, talk about this, and we were saying like this doesn't feel good. We really need to get ahead of it and put together a production plan and schedule, and that's what we did. We talked about it, but we just didn't quite get there.
I think Murphy was listening. We put a whole schedule together about how to get out ahead of our production schedule so that we didn't fall into this paycheck to paycheck, episode by episode rhythm that we're in. And Murphy got us. So he's out there. Be ready for him.
We're all susceptible for sure.
That's it.
So let's talk about clearing the clutter from our finances, or the spring cleaning concept that we have. And we're going to leave you with today 9 different tips that you can do throughout whatever time of year it is, being that we're releasing this episode a little bit later. Maybe kind of spring has come and gone for you, but for us, where I live in the northeast, the tulips are starting to come up now. So we really are right in the heart of spring. People are cleaning their lawns, washing their windows, cleaning out their homes, their garages. So we want you to use this time of year annually to theoretically clean out your finances. And what we're going to kick this off with is revisit or create your financial goals.
Absolutely. Goals are so important. And what better reminder than the springtime, right? Everybody's heard spring cleaning. So what does that mean? Are we just cleaning up the house and the yard and maybe getting some stuff out of the closet, or are we going to dig into our finances, our personal finances, and take a look at those as well? Because we really need to, right? We need to have those goals. We need to be looking out there, finding ways to motivate ourselves to go forward, and making sure that we're still aligned with our goals. And I think that's where we really want you to focus here with this tip is either build goals if you haven't, or make sure that you're still moving toward the goals that you have and that they're the right goals. And I think that last piece, again, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing. Making sure that you still have the right goals in place. Life happens. And so sometimes you have to adjust your goals. I don't know, Christine, if you've ever had to adjust yours. And my guess is that you probably have. I certainly have, and I haven't spoken to anybody yet that hasn't had that experience. What do you say to that?
Right. I think that's something that everybody listening can relate to. Yeah. Even if you make a really small goal, something that, I'm going to be able to achieve this, something can and most often will happen where it becomes difficult to achieve that small goal. But when you set goals, whether they're small goals, big goals, stretch goals, right? Like you're
Yes.
really trying to achieve the impossible, well, now you're setting yourself up for success to be able to do that versus just going through life with, well, these are my dreams, these are my goals, these are my desires, but I don't really have a plan on how to make that happen. If you fail to plan, well, you can also plan to
Plan to
fail,
fail.
but you'll be much more likely to achieve what you want in life when you are striving to achieve something. So you may be sitting here thinking, well, geez, where do I even start with this? Our second tip has to do with scrolling through and looking back at the last 3 months of your purchases. You can do that by opening up an app or your computer and logging into your credit card and your debit card accounts and just, like I mentioned, scroll through. Where has your money been going so you can gain awareness and plan where you want it to go in the future?
Yeah, this is key. Going back and looking over the past and, 3 to 6 months, if you've got access to the information, look at the whole year. Take your spring cleaning opportunity, take the new year opportunity, whatever that cycle is for you, and look at the entire last 12, or in accounting world, we talk about the 13th month. And so the idea there is that you want to look at the past 12 months, but also this month last year. And just compare how are you performing against all of those metrics, year over year, and that information is going to give you what you need. It's going to give you the data to be able to go forward. Did you overspend or underspend in a particular category? And if you're just looking at a smaller segment of time, you can actually start doing it transaction by transaction. So when I said if you've got access to the information, if you're using a budgeting tool like Every Dollar, if your bank has a budgeting tool it's moving money into categories, it's easy to look at that 13-month period. But if you were looking at it transaction by transaction, that would be just far too overwhelming. So take a
Right, right.
smaller
And we
segment of
and we
time.
don't wanna
Yeah,
yeah, so we don't wanna overwhelm you. We just want you to bring awareness into where your money is going. And
absolutely.
oftentimes, people really find that food, whether it's grocery store, takeout, restaurants, that is blowing their budget, so to speak. They are spending way too much money in those areas, and then they have food waste. They're throwing out food that they bought at the grocery store because they were too tired to cook or too busy to cook, and now they're stopping and they're getting takeout or stopping at a restaurant for this unplanned expense. They have meat in their freezer with freezer burn. They have items in their pantry that have a expiration date that's maybe a year or two ago. It happens. It happens to
That's right.
all of us. What we want you to do through this exercise, though, is gain awareness. We don't want you to beat yourself up, feel like wow, how did I do that? How did I spend so much money
Yeah.
here? Just use this information so going forward, you can create a different path for yourself.
And honestly, full disclosure, you will feel that way, and it's okay, to give yourself a little bit of a reality check, and how did I let this get so out of hand? That's fine. Have the momentary thought, but yes, we're not criticizing anybody. This happens to all of us. We've got personal examples in every one of these nine tips that we're going to be talking about today, where we've fallen into our own trap. We started the show by talking about how we've fallen into this paycheck by paycheck, episode by episode mentality. So it definitely is going to happen, and it's okay to respond to that. And but the action that you take next should be an intentional action. And so that's really what we want, is for you to become more aware, more in touch with what's going on. And so looking at the shorter time window, and then really getting down into the weeds of look at all those different transactions and look for things that you either don't expect or really shouldn't be there, right? And then that's where you're going to start making your first adjustments.
So, a real world example of this is I was working with somebody and he bought a brand new car. With that car came Sirius XM radio for a free year trial.
Yep.
Year one went by. He had no idea for the next 2 years he paid $27 a month for it. And it was because it just, it was a dollar amount that was small enough that was recurring on his card every month that he didn't really pay attention to.
Yep.
When he did this exercise, not only did he discover that, he wasn't even using Sirius XM anymore. So he had been paying for it, not using it. He was able to cancel it, right? Which felt good.
Yep.
But he also discovered some fraud on his account. He realized that over
Ah,
the course of the last couple of months, there was between $200 to $300 that were purchases that were not even his own. So luckily he was able to get that cleared up and taken care of. But when we're out of touch with where our money is going, things like that are very easy to spend money on or being taken advantage of in the case of the fraud. And if we're not paying attention to it, we can't correct it. And if we
that's
can't
right.
correct it, we can't use that money for something else.
So if you're paying your bills, great job, right? You're making all your payments, whatever that looks like for you. And a lot of people are kind of hung up on this idea of no credit and no debt, but we probably all have something that falls into the debt category that's attached to our daily lives, our spending habits, even if it's just the house. You probably have something attached to you that's in that category. So making those payments and paying them on time and not having to pay penalties, if you've got 10 years of good history, that's great. But are you looking at the spending reports? Are you looking at the transactions? And do you have some fraud out there that potentially is affecting your finances that you're not even aware of, even if it's just one instance? So I think that's a great example. SiriusXM comes with anybody that's bought a new car in the last 10 years is going to have a SiriusXM plan attached to that, which is going to come as a gift, right? It's going to start off and it's going to be quote unquote free. I'm sure it's baked into the price somewhere, but you get free access to that service, and then it just becomes recurring after that. And of course, that's not the only one, right? There's
Right.
lots of
That's why
examples.
subscription services are so profitable for companies today, and why so many of them are using them. And we're going to talk about subscription services a little bit later in our tips. But I think right now, when we're thinking about this idea of looking back where our money is going, it's also a great time for our third tip, which is taking an inventory of your debt. A lot of people may have a general idea of how much debt they have, but until they maybe run a credit report or go through debt by
Yes.
debt to see what they truly have, they may be pleasantly surprised. Okay, I'm not as in bad shape as I thought I was. Or that it may have been like that head in the sand type mentality of, this is really bad. Now that I'm looking at it, I feel really bad about myself, about my choices, about my actions. But that gives you the power to do something differently, to clear it up, to move forward, and to get this burden out of your life.
And like you said with fraud, if you pull that credit report, you may find something out there that's attached to you. And we all have had that experience or know somebody that's had that experience. And not all of them turn out badly. Not everybody loses their entire bank accounts or has to go through all this litigation to try to figure out what's going on with this fraud situation. But odds are, we're all susceptible to it. We all have a digital footprint out there, and so fraud is one of the fastest growing criminal activities that we have right now. And so you just want to be aware of that as well. And pulling that annual credit report, use the springtime, the spring cleaning idea as a reminder to go ahead and do that. And speaking of reminders, something that we definitely want to encourage everybody to use is their calendar, your online calendar, your digital calendar. It may not be a tool that you're leveraging to its fullest potential right now. And something as simple as just putting a reminder on there, an annual reminder that pops up every year that says, on this day at this time for this 30 minutes, go in and pull your annual credit report and review it. And just, if that's the only action you take, you'll have more information than you did 10 minutes prior to that action.
Yeah, I love that. That's a bonus tip, I'm going to call it, because it wasn't one of our 9 tips that we had laid out. But I think, leveraging technology to help us is a great idea. And these annual reminders to help us stay on track is an awesome tip.
And I have to. I'll forget. If I don't have those reminders out there, if my
Oh,
phone's
all of us
not
will.
buzzing at
Yeah.
me, if I don't have somebody nagging me to get something done, I'll forget or I'll find something else to do, right? So having those
Right.
reminders
So
and
if,
having that block of time is a lifesaver for me, and I would imagine it would be for a lot of people.
yeah, I mean, if you have it on your list every year, run your credit report or do any of these 9 tips that we're sharing with you today. Okay, well, that's great. You have one step done, you put it on a list. But if you have that active reminder, like you're saying, it's disrupting your
That's it. The
moment when it's
disruptor.
coming
I
in.
like
That
that.
yes, yes. So it'll help you achieve your goals. That's what this all comes back to. It's living the life that you want to live, so you can live out your dreams and your goals, and putting systems into place is how that happens. So I love the idea of the calendar. Well, we're going to keep talking about reviewing with tip number 4, and that's reviewing your insurance policies to make sure you are not underinsured or don't have a particular insurance in a certain category. So maybe it's life insurance that you've been neglecting. You know you need it and you want to get it, but it's just one of those things. The days are long, but the weeks, months, and years go by fast, and you haven't signed up for that type of insurance yet. Maybe it's your home. Things have changed, and maybe now your home is really underinsured. The replacement value or the cost to replace your home in the event of a disaster, maybe that's no longer in line with the current economy that we have. Car insurance, medical insurance. Medical is pretty easy if we're employed because annually we have this open enrollment period where you're being asked to review your plan and either change it or stay status quo. But if you don't have that reminder with your other insurance policies, excuse me, you may not be doing it.
No, that's right. So the annual reminder is good. Open enrollment is another opportunity. We talked about spring cleaning, but open enrollment gives you kind of that second reminder during the year. And maybe that's when this mentality starts. Maybe there's an action or two that you can do between open enrollment if that affects you in your life. And if it doesn't, just know that it's coming around. And again, put open enrollment on your personal calendar, even if you don't participate in it, and just have that as a reminder and pick a time during the year that it works for you. It doesn't have to be formal to somebody else's schedule if you're not attached to that. So I think that's great.
And sometimes this whole task is overwhelming because we don't know what to do in these situations.
That's
I don't
right.
know what the best car insurance is or the best provider or what type of life insurance do I need. I don't even know. So finding an insurance agent that you can trust and work with, someone who you don't feel like is just selling to you so they can make their quotas, but someone who is truly educating you, that's where you want to start. And don't settle for that person. Keep interviewing agents until you find the right person who can help you.
Absolutely. We want to team up, right? We want partners. There's a reason that, most people don't set off and try to build their own house if they're building a house, right? You hire a contractor, you hire general trades, you get somebody to come help you with those things. Maybe even something as simple as lawn care. Maybe that's just out of your wheelhouse. Every time you've taken care of the lawn in the past, it's died, right? You weren't doing a good job. So you find a lawn care guy. I mean, there's a reason that these professionals exist and they can add a lot of value. Taxes are another great example. Get a tax pro to help you with your taxes. They pay for themselves. And
Exactly.
but talking about insurance, one of the things that jumped into my mind about this category, we talk about being underinsured all the time, or maybe being overinsured, right? So we want to make sure that the balance is there, right? And so not just underinsured, but if you're overinsured, there might be an opportunity to scale back. Maybe you're carrying some insurance. Maybe you've gotten a whole life policy, right? And you've been maintaining that for a while. Those tend to be fairly expensive, and there's lots of different variables out there. There's lots of different applications, but in general, we can speak to the whole life policies as an expensive option that don't apply in most people's situations. And so that would be an area where you could look to maybe scale back and convert that over into a term life policy or a different type of policy that got you the coverage you need without having to spend too much for it, right? So we want to be very aware, and you just want to make sure that again, your tax professional, or not tax in this case, but your insurance agent can help you kind of navigate that and have that conversation and figure out what the best fit is for your situation.
And that's a great segue into our next set of tips because now we want you to be proactive and try to get some money back out of the things that you're spending money
Hmm.
on. So this next tip is if you're using apps where money comes to you. So for example, in my case, I use Venmo. And I also use an app called Upside. Upside is for gas. So when I spend money on gas, I'm earning cash back. If I just leave that money sitting on that app, or it's when somebody pays me, they're paying me for whatever reason, and I have money sitting in my Venmo app. That money's not doing me any good.
No,
Let
it's
me
not.
take that out, whether I'm doing it monthly or quarterly, but not let it just sit there. Take it out. And maybe you feel like, what, I don't want it to sit there at all. I'm going to take it out daily. Whenever that money comes in, I'm like transferring it out. Get it out of those apps. Use it towards your goals.
Yeah, money sitting around. This one hits home for me because I've shared with you, Christine, that we've got a long term incentive plan out that sits out there, and it drives me crazy because it's intended to be a long term incentive, and so they've cut it up into portions that can once they're vested can be divested, right? So that means I can move that money either into an investment or into a savings account or whatever I want, but I can't do that until they're vested, and so unfortunately, there's a balance out there that just sits in a cash account. So that one hurts a little bit because it's a larger balance, right? It's a bigger sum of money. But even when you're talking about these small ones, right? Don't let that money sit there. Make sure that you know what your plan is and that you're putting all of your assets into the correct accounts, into the correct positions to help you achieve the goals that you're setting up for yourself. And that's where, all of these things, they are separate tips, but they're all related, right? If you've got the framework,
Oh
if you've
yeah.
got the structure, if you've made the decision to be intentional, what does that mean for you? And if you're making goals and setting up your value system and really understanding, how am I going to filter my decisions? How am I going to drive this project forward? This project of my personal finances. How am I going to make a little change this year that's going to have some added value, right, to the decisions that I make and the work that I do? And I think that's where all of these things really work together, right? We want to put them all in practice and really do things that are going to complement each other rather than have all of these little individual efforts.
Right. And making those small changes, right, that does have a big impact leads into our next tip of apps. How many apps do we pay for? Subscriptions do we pay
Subscriptions.
for
Yes.
that we are not using? Sure, there are a lot of ones that add value to our lives that we use, that we like, that we would be lost without them. But think about the ones that you're paying for. And even if it's a small charge on your card every month, $2.99, $7.99, $9.99, right? We overlook it because, oh, it's not that much money. It's not worth my time or energy or effort to think about it or look at it. But really, I think it is worth your time and
It
effort
is.
to clean all of those up. Not only are you getting rid of the clutter, right? You're freeing up money, but now again, we use this word all the time. You're being intentional
Yes.
about what you're spending money on and how it adds value to your life.
And that's the key word, right? It's the value, right? So, are the things that you're spending money on adding value to your life? Are they helping you achieve your goals? Because we don't really separate the idea of value and goals. Goals need to be built on the foundation of value. And so, if you're pursuing a goal, you should have the value side covered, right? And anyway, so when we talk about these subscriptions, how many of those crept into your life because we talked about SiriusXM, you got a free trial period. And then after that trial period was over, it started automatically charging you because even with the trial period, you have to put in a credit card or a debit card number so that they can automatically start charging you. And I mean, let's face it, they hope that you're going to get hooked, and most of us do, or we don't, and we just don't see that as as an exercise worth our time to go get rid of, or worse, we justify it, right? And now all of a sudden,
Right.
something that doesn't add value, something that wasn't on our list, and it's not intentional, we are justifying the expense and we're moving on down the road paying our bills and telling ourselves that we're managing our budget and doing a good job. And that may not be the case if you actually sat down and applied a little bit of critical thought and said, do I really want this service? Do I really need this service? And so that's where you really
Yep.
have to go back and you have to challenge yourself. And I'll throw this tip out there too, along with these subscriptions. This is something that I do. I don't sign up for anything that charges you monthly. I will only sign up for programs that allow me to charge annually. And I will set those up for automatic renewal. But the difference is I get that reminder once a year and I get that confirmation that says, hey, in 30 days, you're going to get that annual renewal automatically unless you want to make a change. And so they don't all overlap at the same time during the year, but throughout the period of a year, I'll interact with each of those subscriptions one time and I'll have to make the decision, do I want to commit to this for a year? And
That's a
that
great tip.
that for me is not just do I want to make one more monthly payment. It's do I want to commit to this for a year? And that's a different decision in most cases, right? I either
Yeah,
y-
I absolutely love what you're saying. I think I've never thought of it that way, but now that you're articulating it, I think that's an absolute bang on smart idea. Another thing, when you're thinking about, okay, now you've identified what you want to eliminate,
Mhm,
go in it with the idea of they are going to try to keep you.
mhm.
So give yourself the time when you're trying to cancel a subscription that, all right, this may be a little effort because it may be hard to find how to cancel. It may be hard to find within the app or on their website. They may, entice me back with offers or
That's
incentives.
right.
So stand firm in your conviction. Don't get frustrated if the process is difficult, but move forward and eliminate the things that you don't want to have in your life anymore.
And I'd say don't
Another way,
don't try to
oh,
do them all at once, right? Like you were saying,
right.
it may be difficult, so don't sit down and think you're going to cancel 30 subscriptions today. Like let's do 2 and see how that goes. We'll learn a little bit and then if you've got a list of 30, hopefully you don't, but if you do, work your way through those. You'll learn something from every interaction. And yes, don't let them upsell you or offer you another free trial because that'll do is put you right back in the same cycle.
Yep, exactly. So another tip that we want to share with you on how you can get more money out of the money that you're already making is consider adjusting your tax withholdings with your
Absolutely.
employer. There are many of us, and this was me before I learned this tip. We loved getting that big tax refund back every year, and we would plump up our savings account and use it for a vacation or use it for some things around the home. But most often, people don't make a plan for this money. So as soon as it comes in, it's
It's
going
gone.
back out again,
Yep.
whether it is intentional with going back out, into a vacation, or it's unintentional of, man, it's been hard. I've been strapped. Now I have this money. I have a little bit of breathing room. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go to a concert. Let's do some shopping, and then the money's gone before you even think about it. Plus, the government is using this money. It's your money. They're borrowing it from you. You use your money.
That's
You
right.
have a little bigger paycheck each pay period, but be diligent with where that money is going, and it will reap rewards for you because now you have that money week to week, biweekly, monthly, whenever you're getting paid to use to help you achieve your goals. We keep getting back to the goals. The
Same,
goals are so important.
and the same word applies here, right? Be intentional. So if you're saying that you're going to take more of the money in, a lot of people are going to think, well, if I have it, I'm going to spend it. That's why I let the government hold it, because then I get that back and I get this big infusion of cash, But again, that mentality, if you're thinking if I have it, I'm going to spend it, then you've already spent it. You're just waiting to spend it at a later date. So what we want to do is go back to being intentional. You want to know what your plan is, what your goals are, where your values are pointing you. And if you can set all
Right.
those things up and you can follow that plan, and this is such something that's so critical with goal setting is setting up goals that you can actually achieve, right? And so having those big goals, stretch goals, is critical because that's what's going to help you really make progress. But if your only activity is to make a goal that you can't achieve, well, that's unrealistic, and you're going to fail, and then you're going to beat yourself up for it, and then you're going to, go. Some people shop as a way to cope with stress. And so if you create stress in your life, then you're going to go spend money. And if money is the thing creating stress, well, this becomes a downward spiral, right? So we want to stay away from those kinds of things. But if you can put those goals out there and then create lots of small goals that help you achieve success every day, every week, whatever, and you can feel good about that, and then you can repeat that process, now you're moving toward that bigger goal. And you're going to get there. It's just a question of time. And so using this as a tool to get more of the cash available to you allows you to put that money, your money, in an account that is actually going to help you achieve those goals maybe faster, right? Or maybe
Right.
achieve more than you thought you could.
And that leads into tip number 8. So if you feel like, you know what, I may not be diligent with this extra money that I'm getting in my paycheck, you can set up either through your direct deposit if you have that ability.
That's right.
If you don't have direct deposit, we'll share another way for you to do it. But through your direct deposit, you can take your full paycheck and either divide it up between a percentage or dollar amounts. So you may want, for example, 80% of your paycheck going into your checking account so you can pay all your bills, buy all the things that you need in life. And then the other 20% can be divvied up in between other savings accounts to help you reach these saving goals.
Yep.
If you don't have direct deposit as an option from your employer, you can set up automatic transfers. So it can be once a month, twice a month. Obviously, you want to do this after you get paid or that your money is going into your account, but set it up, automatically transfer it into a holiday savings club, right? A lot of banks or credit unions already have that. Set up some more for you. Set up a vacation fund, a car maintenance fund,
That's
a
right.
home maintenance fund. Set up these funds so you're able to achieve your goal without going backwards.
That's it. And I'm a big fan of simplicity, and I'm a big fan of automating. This sort of feels like an underlining theme that isn't really being mentioned, so we'll mention it now, right? So we're automating some reminders on our calendars. We're automating some cash flow with setting up automatic transfers between accounts, and or maybe you're just using a budgeting tool and you're not physically moving the money into a new account, but you have these funds set up, and so you're moving money into those funds. Whatever that looks like for you, automate it so that it happens mindlessly. Direct deposit is just step one, and there's a lot there's so many things. Even the marketing gurus, right? They've gotten their hands on direct deposits too, and they want to get your money 2 days faster, right? They want to, if you're paid on Friday, we'll get you your money by Wednesday. So and all they're doing is giving you the ability and the mentality of being able to go spend it faster, right? That's what they're really doing, is partnering with the other marketing strategists out there that are giving you ways to spend the money faster. And so we don't want to do that. But think about the benefit and the influence and the effect and the impact that must be connected to those decisions for all of these companies to be investing the amount of time, effort, and money into these programs that they are. So let's use that. Let's leverage that and let's set up automated transfers. Let's set up automated reminders. Let's set our lives up for success by using some of this automation and take some of that
Yes.
decision, take away the opportunity to make a mistake or like fall into a moment of weakness and spend something that you're only going to regret later.
Right. You're putting a barrier between you and your money. So
Yes. And
if that
following your
helps
plan.
you, do it.
You make the
Right.
plan, you put it in motion, you set up the
Right.
automated schedule. Now it's going to happen whether you do it or not.
So the plan is our ninth tip, and
Yep.
that's budgeting. Now, a lot of people, when you say the B word, and I recently had a conversation with somebody who she visibly, if you're watching this
Oh
on
yeah.
YouTube, you can see me. I'm white knuckling, I'm scrunched up, my shoulders are up by my ears, I'm cringing,
Some of the
and
people
I'm
watching
hearing
are
this
doing
word.
that right now because we're talking about the budget.
Excuse me. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, in having this conversation with this individual, the more we talked about what a budget was, she started relaxing
Yeah,
and breathing deeper. And she said to me, "Oh, that's a freedom plan." Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a plan to give you freedom to spend your money how you want to spend it. That's all it is. It's not a ball and chain. It's not a barrier. It's not constraints. It's not limiting. It's actually the opposite. It's
absolutely.
freeing. So we're going to do a whole future episode about budgeting. And for someone who's a nerd like me who loves budgeting, I've done it every month since June of 2017. This is a topic near and dear to my heart, and we'll jump into it and dive into it in a later episode. But until then, use budgeting as a tool to help you to achieve your goals.
Absolutely. Yeah, the budget, it's not handcuffs, right? So I've shared with you before that I used to call it a spend plan. We had formal spend plans in my previous career, and that's all they really were. They were just budgets. We just knew what we were going to spend, where it was going to go, when it was going to be spent. So we knew how much money needed to be in the account so that we could, buy the things and pay for the things and the services that we needed in order to build and complete the projects that we were doing. And that's all they are, right? They're budgets. But the term budget from a personal standpoint definitely brings a lot of stress along with it just because of the nature of our nation, unfortunately, right now, when it comes to how our government spends money, how we've been taught to spend money, how most people spend money. And
And the emotion of spending money,
it's
right?
very emotional.
Money,
Yeah,
money is very loaded. Thinking from
absolutely.
your childhood through young adulthood into adulthood, there could be a lot of negative emotion tied to it.
But think
So
about how much negative emotion is tied to it. What if you could just switch that and just flip it over into a good relationship, right? As
then it's
negative as it feels
empowering.
now, what if you could feel that good about it on the other
Yeah.
side once you made some of these changes? So, if nothing else, just try it and see how it works. Make those little adjustments and apply some of these strategies. And again, don't try to do them all at once, right? Set up some of this automation, make those little moves into different accounts or different funds automatically so that you're not tempted, so you don't have access, you're still achieving your goals. Adjust some of your habits during the year so that you can interact with your service providers, your subscriptions, your taxes, all of those different financially related, your insurance, all of these things have a financial impact. So don't sit down and do them all at once. That's a recipe. I wouldn't try to do that.
Right.
CPAs and
And you mentioned it
accountants, let them do it.
And you mentioned it when we recorded this episode for the second time, which I don't think got mentioned now, is that use your calendar to take these 9 tips and don't feel overwhelmed by it, but
Yeah.
put one a week, work on one a week, but then set it for an annual reminder that
Yes.
annually, when this week comes around throughout the year, you are going to work on tip number 1 through 9. So we're going to leave you now with our quote for the episode, which is clutter is not just the stuff on the floor, it's anything that stands between you and the life you want to be living. And that was said by Peter Walsh. And just think about that for a moment, right? We may have clutter in our homes. I'm sitting here in my living room right now. Maybe it's outside of our home, in our yard, in our shed, in our garage. Maybe it's in our mind. I certainly have a lot of clutter in my mind, and it can definitely be in your finances. So clear the clutter, spring clean, get the cobwebs out, and have this be a restart or reset for you.
And maybe another word for clutter is waste, right? If you think about it as clutter, it's just maybe a minor inconvenience or annoyance. But if it's really waste, are you really going to let the kitchen wastebasket fill up and overflow and take over the entire kitchen before you decide to empty that trash? So maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you just need to take out the trash. Maybe you need to eliminate that waste from your life and from your budget.
I like that visual a lot. I really like that. That was a good one. So the book we have for you this time, our quotes and our book recommendations and our tips and our episodes aren't always 100% focused on money, because really we look at your life holistically, and money is just a piece of it. Money is a tool to be used. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you happy.
Right.
So the book recommendation that we have today is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, the Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing. And it was written by Marie Kondo. I read this book a couple of years ago. I absolutely loved it. It's a very easy to read, easy to follow system that you can put into place for your own clutter or waste in your life. And we want you to consider reading it to help you with the clutter or waste with your finances.
I haven't read it, but it's on my list now. I'm going to check it out. I identify and I align with this sort of philosophy of being a minimalist. You wouldn't know it if you visited my house, but it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I think this idea of waste and clutter and just trying to become a little bit more minimal. You don't have to go to the extreme of living off the grid. All of us have waste. We all have extra stuff that even if it's just distractions, right? Maybe it's electronics that are creating distractions instead of being used as tools to help us live a more fulfilling life and be a little bit more organized. So once they start becoming a distraction, that really falls into the category of clutter, and it's something you either need to adjust or you need to remove. So yeah, I'm going to check it out. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, good. Yes, awesome. So that's it for episode 6. I sure am hoping that this is the last time that we're recording it, and we're moving on to episode 7, which is Celebrate the Win. And we're going to celebrate making it through successfully completing episode 6.
I was just having that same thought.
We're on the same page. I like it. So with that, thank you very much, Donald. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Off Limits.
Beyond the podcast, we are money coaches who want to help you.
So if you are looking for help managing your money, use the links in the description below to contact either of us and learn how coaching can help you thrive.
Lastly, please help us to spread the word by subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing our podcast with your friends and family.